Hey, good afternoon. Welcome in to the 573 report here on Power Mizzou on a Wednesday afternoon. That is when we generally do this show. And I want to welcome you in before we get into things and bring Mitchell Forde in and talk about to be determined topics. Want to point out 573 Tees is the place you need to go for all your Mizzou apparel and also other, kind of tangentially related apparel. Columbia, Missouri stuff. They've got some Royals, Chiefs cards, all kinds of good stuff for you. But this week, actually, they tweeted out, I think most of you probably saw the fan at the Missouri game holding the Missouri-Tennessee game holding this sign that said, "I'm sad." 573 Tees found that fan and made a T-shirt along with him. So you can get a black and gold "I'm sad" T-shirt, which, you know what, might come in handy at times over the next few days and weeks and months. So go do that. You can also get some Power Mizzou gear at their site, 573tees.com/collections/Power Mizzou. I'm going to bring Mitch in before I have to say the word collections again, which for some reason I always really struggle with. So I don't know, Mitch, do you have some words you want to say that you can pronounce correctly?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully all of them. I try to pronounce things correctly.
Yeah.
I have caught myself lately whenever I'm talking about the quarterback-ish Burdine/Burdine. I think it's actually Burdine. I just say each equal numbers of times.
Yes.
Like on a radio interview last week, I said his name 4 times and I said Burdine twice and Burdine twice. So there you go. I'm just trying to, help you out.
I have a problem knowing when to use effect with an E and effect with an A.
Yeah,
So
that's a tough one.
I usually use influence when
Yeah.
when I'm not sure which one it is.
Sure. Impact. Yeah,
yes.
something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just cover my tracks. So, um, speaking of 573 Tees and the lead in, a lot of Missouri fans still kind of sad after last week. I feel like I think though that, and we don't need to go over last week anymore, but I really just think this whole season and the whole tenor of this fan base right now is being so impacted by how bad the Tennessee game was. I mean, if they had lost that Tennessee game 35-31, people would be bummed out a little bit, but it wouldn't be like this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, that was, especially after the two losses before, as you kind of touched on, the one score losses where you can say, yeah, one or two plays go differently. We're right there. That game was over from like the third snap. I mean, it was a complete beatdown against the team, of the three Power 5 teams Mizzou's played that you would have most expected to beat. I mean, no one really thought Tennessee was going to be very good. And while they're putting up decent numbers, I still don't think they're all that special. I still think Mizzou probably should be able to beat them at home more often than not. So yeah, I mean, I definitely understand why fans feel that way. I mean, that's the type of game where it's going to take a while to get the taste out of your mouth. It'll probably dilute a little bit as we get more data points and more games on the season. Maybe Mizzou beats a team it wasn't supposed to. That'll help. But also at the same time, I mean, you and I both know that there are losses like that fans will hold on to and bring up for legitimately decades.
What year is it? 2021. By 2080, I think nobody will talk about that Tennessee game. I'm not actually sure that's true. Somebody might. Jim Bob wants to know if they do not teach affect and affect at the J School. I think I was absent that day, honestly, but also, like, this isn't the greatest week to talk about what is and is not taught in sports media, maybe. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's all optional this week.
Book that had that in it. Sometimes it's hard to memorize all those things.
Yeah.
You forget.
Yeah, if you do have questions and comments, please feel free to throw them in. Like I said, we're kind of freewheeling here. So any of your comments and we'll go. But I find it good that our first question came from Jim Bob in the week that Missouri plays Jimbo. He looks kind of like a Jim Bob to me, to be quite honest. He was discussing on the SEC teleconference how difficult of a place Missouri is to play. And we decided in the pre-show meeting that we don't think he has ever actually coached in a game here.
Yeah, definitely not as a head coach. Like it's possible at some point as an assistant or a staffer or somehow he has been doing, a game in Columbia, but he also might just be, he might have just looked at like past meetings between Texas A&M and Mizzou, seen Texas A&M has lost to Mizzou a few times and been like, oh, that's something nice I can say about Mizzou, even
Right.
though I don't mean it, along with every single thing else.
Yeah. I mean, look, Missouri has frankly been really tough on Texas A&M. I think they got R.C. Slocum fired. I'm pretty sure they got Mike McCarthy fired. Kevin Sumlin got himself fired, so I'm not going to give Missouri credit for that one. But they have been tough on A&M over the years. Before we get into any actual talk about this game, I've listened to Jimbo talk a little bit this week, and I watched him beat Alabama, and I wasn't very happy about that because I think on the list of SEC head coaches that I don't know and yet don't like, I think Jimbo Fisher is number one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's always bugged me, and I don't know why. And so he is ahead of Dan Mullen only because I didn't know Dan Mullen was so dislikable until like a year ago. Jimbo has just always seemed dislikable to me.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a problem with Jimbo. I mean, like you hear a little bit too much about him. He's probably a little overhyped. Although, yeah, I mean, he won a national title. That's significant. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but like, he's definitely overpaid. Things kind of went south at Florida State, and they still paid him $1 bazillion to come to A&M. But like, at no point have I ever found myself like disliking him, other than if I have to transcribe him. He talks way too fast. I cannot imagine covering him every day. I think I'd move jobs because of that alone.
I find myself usually disliking him. The exception was when basically everybody knew he was leaving Florida State because he took a news station saw him taking his Christmas tree to the curb, I believe prior to Christmas, right?
Yeah, it was like mid-December.
Yeah. So that was, in my book, that was Jimbo Fisher's best day. I like that. So, but all due credit to him. And I think actually the reason I don't like him is because I just don't like Texas A&M very much. I never have. And I don't really hide that. And that's okay. But all due credit to him. I mean, they pulled this thing out of somewhere last week and beat Alabama. So I think they showed what their ceiling is. And that was the team that everybody had ranked, number 5 or 6 or whatever it was in the preseason. And so that automatically means Missouri fans are going, well, we're screwed. Look what they did. They're great. They're going to kill us. I mean, still, that game represents 16% of A&M's season. And the other 83%, they have not been anything close to that team.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about it Monday. I mean, it's just kind of part of the deal in college football. Like, you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids. Weird things happen. And, you get into a big game environment like that, they come focused, ready to play, make some plays. I mean, like, stuff like that can happen. Same type of thing could happen for Mizzou this weekend. I'm not saying it will, but it could. And yeah, A&M, they're definitely a very flawed team. And I think I really do think that them winning that game actually gives Missouri a better chance than it probably would have otherwise. Again, still not predicting Mizzou to win. I cannot go that far. I still think Texas A&M is able to hand the ball off, which is really all that it takes to beat Missouri. But I do think that there's a decent chance they come in somewhat hungover from that win. Yep. They're definitely going to be physically beat up. I mean, They've had a lot of injuries all year, but you come off of playing Alabama. You had Zach Calzada leave the game for a hot second. CJ Spiller's beat up. I mean, there's definitely a chance that they're, just physically a little bit, come in a little bit sluggish. And it should be a big game for Mizzou where, I think like the LSU game last year, we're going to see, Drinkwitz kind of go into his bag of tricks a little bit. And maybe that gives Mizzou a spark. So, yeah, I'm not saying Mizzou, again, not predicting Mizzou's going to win, but I could definitely see this game being competitive.
Yeah, I think the hangover thing is real. We see it all the time. Team believes its press clippings a little bit and comes out and is flat the next week. And I think especially at 11 a.m. in a stadium that's, going to be 2/3 full or whatever, I certainly think that's possible. I kind of tried to get Drinkwitz to say this yesterday, and he basically denied it, which doesn't surprise me. But if I'm Drinkwitz, the whole week is, they did it, why not you? Mm-hmm. Why can't you be this team that pulls an upset that has everybody talking about it? And if not now, when? because, again, I don't think this is a great team that's coming in. A lot of things set up. I think this is even if they don't win the game, I think it would be very disappointing if you see a team that you don't say, man, those dudes were up for that game, and they really put it out there.
Yeah, totally agree. And there's been a lot of talk about energy and effort. And frankly, I think probably too much talk for an SEC football team. This week the coaches have all been talking about, we came back from that Tennessee game and we played with great energy and effort. And the players have said that too. And that's great, but that should be the bare minimum. I mean, I can't get behind oh my gosh, everything's turned around because we just figured out how to play with energy and effort. That should always happen. Right. But yes, I do think that we saw against Tennessee what happens if that's not there. I would not expect that to be the case. I definitely think that the team should come out fired up. They should come out knowing maybe they're gonna throw a gadget player or two out there. Maybe they have something up their sleeves. I think that they will be definitely fired up. I know it's an 11 a.m. game, but I would expect there to be probably the biggest crowd we've seen this season. So yeah, no, I agree. I think that home field and the early game and all that should help Missouri.
Also, isn't it being oversold how much better they played last week?
Oh yeah, I started off that and in the kind of the hours after that North Texas game, I was actually a little taken aback by some of the negativity on the board and from the fan base and stuff, and I understood sort of where it was coming from, but I was like, look guys, they won the game, they were winning 41-14 with 9 minutes left, it was well in control, and then things got a little out of hand, settle down, they did what they needed to do, but in the days since, it's gone a little overboard, I think, from the coaches of just we took some big steps forward and this and that. No, you played a bad team. It's okay. You don't have to be upset about it. You don't have to continue to trash the players and act like you just got beat again. But I don't think you need to act like, oh my gosh, we just took this big step forward and figured everything out. And they haven't said that. They've said it was progress, not perfection. Still a lot of things we need to do better. Yada yada yada. I also do though. I think that at some point it needs to be I say mentioned, coaches and players wouldn't say this, but it was North Texas. It was a bad Conference USA team. It just doesn't. I don't think it really means much of anything either way, positive or negative.
Well, and this kind of goes to we go to these press conferences and they say it's clear. Eli Drinkwitz starts every week with, "Hey, here's going to be my message." And this is what I'm going to talk about at the press conference. And every time I'm asked a question, this is kind of what it's going to come back to. And this week's message was clearly, hey, I thought we had energy and we were very competitive, and I saw a lot of things, a lot of good things versus last week, especially on the defensive line. I know there are a few sites out there. Our Ole Miss site does it, is where I saw it, but I've seen a few other people do it too. After press conferences, they write what he said and what he meant. And look, he can say that all he wants. I don't have to write it. I don't have to write the story that they have all this energy and we're so much more competitive because, again, like you said, trying is the least I expect. And now, just because you didn't try last week, that doesn't mean just trying gets you, kudos and nice stories. We can still talk about how you didn't super try last week without going overboard about this week. And again, I've gone to enough press conferences. Whatever. They can say what they want. And it doesn't bother me a whole lot. It's just a little bit, let's be a little bit smarter than to think everything is fixed or everything is even significantly better.
Right, 100%. I'm not trying to rip Drinkwitz or Steve Wilkes or these people for saying that stuff. I get why they did it. I mean, these players at a certain point probably need to hear their coaches say oh yeah, my players are capable. By the way, I know that I've mentioned I don't build this thing overnight, but the guys on my roster are capable of winning games. That probably goes a long way. But yes, we also don't have to regurgitate what they say and tell you all oh guys, guess what? They're fixing it.
It's okay. Yeah. So Cam actually brings up a good point, and I hadn't really thought a whole lot about this, but he says need a better start. Can't get hit like a truck, like against Kentucky and Tennessee, and honestly against BC too. I mean, they have played from behind all year, it seems like. I don't know what the numbers say, and I don't care about North Texas and I don't care about SEMO. I don't really even care about Central Michigan. But in the 3 games against Power 5 teams, I would be willing to bet that out of 180 minutes, I'd bet Missouri's trailed for 140 of them, minimum.
Something like that. Yeah.
I mean,
BC
clearly
game,
all
they
60
really
against
I
Tennessee.
don't think they were trailing that long against BC, right? I feel like it was like,
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like BC scored those 10. It was like tied at halftime. BC scored those 10 straight points.
Trailed most of the second half.
Most of the second. But I don't think Mizzou ever trailed in the first half at
Okay.
all. But still, it's still probably close because they trailed the whole game against Kentucky and the whole game against Tennessee. So you're still probably about there.
Did they never lead against Kentucky? Is that right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, because they were down 14-0. So
right.
No, I don't think they led. Yeah, and I mean they certainly never led against Tennessee. So
and that also
also
kind of leads to Connor Bazelak's top 10 in the country in passing, but like they're throwing the ball 11 billion times a game because they're behind 14-0 in the first quarter.
For sure. I actually found a stat today, and now I don't have it in front of me because it's going to be included in my story tomorrow, though. But I think the number one indicator of success under Eli Drinkwitz for Missouri teams has been how effectively they run the ball. Now, you could argue that is more of a symptom than it is a cause, right? Like, they're running the ball more effectively in games they win because they're playing from a lead versus playing from behind. But it's something like they're in 2 seasons, they're averaging, I think, something about 3 times more yards per game and 2 times more yards per carry in wins than losses. Wow. And that's over now 16 games. Yeah, 16 games. So, I mean, I definitely think that kind of shows that this offense is not meant to drop back and throw the ball 50 times.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that this is the best week for Missouri's running game.
That's part of why, I keep saying, like, I think this could be competitive. I think some things line up for Mizzou, but ultimately when I go back and look, I really think Missouri is going to get dominated on both lines of scrimmage. I mean, Texas A&M's offensive line is nothing special. They've got some true freshmen there, but I mean, we know Mizzou's defensive line. It's made a lot of not special squads look special. And then A&M's defensive front is legit. And, they had 4 sacks against Bama last week. They're top 20 in the country in both sacks and tackles for loss on the season. And like low-key, Mizzou's offensive line has been struggling a little bit of late. I don't think it's looked its best the past couple games. So I think it could be hard to find some running room Saturday.
Yeah. And so I just kind of want to wrap up the football part of this with this. I mean, can they make a bowl game if they lose Saturday?
They can, but
and not 5-7 cheap bowl game, and that doesn't count.
Yeah, yes, definitely not counting that. No, 6-6, they can, but I start to say there's almost no way. I mean, like, yes, they could beat South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas, but I'd be so surprised. I guess it could be, one of Arkansas or Florida, because really Florida at home in November might be about as likely a win as at Arkansas. But yeah, I don't think so. I think if they lose Saturday, I would say the chances of making a bowl game are under 15%.
Yeah, and I can't remember if we talked about it here. I was talking about it somewhere else, but I mean, that's where Missouri has struggled so much in the last few years. Is it's not that the final record is 500, it's that halfway through the season, you already know you're playing for nothing. And in every year, it seems like Missouri's September and particularly October records have been really, really bad the last few years, and it just knocks all the wind out of the sails. And winning this game would turn a whole lot of that around, because look what they got out of the LSU game last year, even though, like, we kind of now know low-key that LSU was awful, but it doesn't matter. I mean, at the time, that was a huge win, and they got a lot out of that. And this game, I think, could do similar things. I did post a link on the board that Matt Norlander's in the middle of ranking all 358 Division I basketball teams. I was curious if you wanted to take the next 10 minutes or so to rank all 358 Division I basketball teams.
I could not even name all 358 Division I basketball teams. So I do not think, I think I'll pass on that.
If you sat down and, like, with a piece of paper, no Google machine or anything in front of you, and I just said, write down as many Division I basketball teams as you possibly can. How many, like, I gave you, 20 minutes. How many do you think you'd get?
Oh, man. I don't know. I feel like on the spot, like that 20 minutes, I wouldn't do as well.
Freak out.
Like, if I had like a day to think about it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that entire league exists.
Right.
I bet I could get to 200.
I was going to say I maybe could get half of them.
Yeah.
I
bet I could get 200 to 250 in that range.
But then also I would just start naming school. Like I would just start saying things like Northwest Arkansas. I don't know if there's a Northwest Arkansas, but like there's a chance.
You'd have every direction of every state listed, and some of them would be right.
Exactly. And I would just say like Centenary. I don't know if they're Division I or not, but I know they're a school. So,
yeah, exactly.
But I guess, what are we, like 3 weeks from basketball season? Something like that? November 9th?
I don't know, something like that. Yeah, maybe 4 weeks. 4 weeks, I think. Yeah.
It's a
little under.
Is it a school rule that Missouri opens every season now with Central Michigan?
I think maybe it is, which is kind of wild. I mean, if you're gonna think of one non-conference team, like both teams would play, it would probably be like, I don't know, an in-state localish school. But no, Mizzou and Central Michigan, permanent rivals.
All right. Well, yeah. Look, I don't know, kind of a weird week, and we said we didn't come in really with a plan. Mitchell is going over to Media Day. We can once again vouch any quotes that appear in his story will actually have been said, and he's got to get done right, and so he can send the story over to Eli Drinkwitz for final edit and approval before it goes on Power Mizzou. So.
Yeah, the story would be significantly more interesting if I could make up the quotes. Can I start doing that? Is that cool with you?
Maybe just start a different site, like Missouri.rivals.com instead of Missouri. And it just, whatever you want to post over there. I don't use a pen name. Post it
TaylorMade.
There you go. Post it as TaylorMade or something like that. That'd be good. All right, hang on. We got one quick question we'll take before we get out of here from Dustin. Do you think that having a, quote, bad season by whoever's definition you want to use is worse in a year like this where there's more parity than normal? I see what he's asking. Like, you look around and go, well, if Kentucky wins, they're in the playoff. Wouldn't this be a nice year for that to be us? And it would be, but, I mean, that was never on the table for Missouri this year.
Yeah, I don't know that it's the more parity that makes it a little harder to stomach, but I'm sure it's a little bit tough to see a few other like second-year coaches, and particularly, one who's Missouri's rival, doing good things. I mean, Arkansas obviously has had a really good season. You could go outside of the league and look at like Michigan State, really good season under a second-year coach. And I don't view that as a knock on Eli Drinkwitz and Mizzou. Every job is different, and you do have to. I mean, every school's got a different level of talent. He's got to build this thing, and I was fully prepared to give him time to do that. But I can see how, as a fan, that maybe hurts your psyche a little bit more.
Yeah, because you do look at the years where you say, all right, well, Kentucky got Florida. Maybe Florida's a little bit down. Maybe when we're good, Florida's not going to be down. And, I get the line of thought, but I think, if you were hoping for 8 wins, which I don't think 8 wins was unreasonable coming into this season. If you thought 8-4, I think that's fair. Anything above that, I think, was a little unreasonable. But if you came in hoping for 8-4 and you're going to end up 5-7, like, I think you're just going to be frustrated no matter what. I don't think it matters what any other team does.
It's also worth noting that, like, this is not the type of year where, like, the East was up there for the taking. I mean, you have the best team in the country in the division. It's not like, 2013, 2014 when everyone else was a little down and Mizzou was good at the right time. So,
well, and also what makes college football so much, I think, worse, is that there's no, like, potential light at the end of the tunnel for a team that is struggling or is off to a bad start. Like, the other football team I like is off to a dreadful start, but there's still a pretty decent chance they're getting in the playoffs and will have a chance to make everybody forget everything. In college basketball, if you're sitting, we're almost halfway through the season. Well, if you're 8-8 through the first half of the season, like, it's looking rough, but you also know, hey, we've still got a chance to get in this thing. And there is no thing like that for college football. So when you get to October 13th and you've already got 3 losses, you're just going, well, realistically, it is 10 and a half more months before my team's going to play a meaningful game. And that sucks.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, no, both NFL and college basketball, you get hot at the right time, you have a chance to win the whole thing, and that doesn't exist in college football. I totally agree. It's tough because I think you hit it on the head earlier with that's been an issue for Mizzou a lot. I mean, like almost every year under Barry Odom, I guess 2018 they started 3-0, but other than that, is like all their decent wins came in the back half of the schedule when everyone was already kind of checked out, and it was like, oh yeah, they did that, okay, that's fine, and then you kind of build off that in the offseason, get people excited again, and then they go lose to Wyoming or something like that. Like it's really been an issue with just giving fans hope past September, and that's a tough way to fill the stadium.
It's clearly much better to do it like Konzo Martin's team did last year, get in the top 10, get everybody fired up, and then collapse and have them super pissed off the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess really there's no ideal way to do it, but at least and the basketball team didn't get to take advantage of it, but at least there was a time there where like people were pretty fired up about them. Like under normal times, that Bama game would have been a sellout.
Right, and they did enough in that okay, even though the last 6 weeks of the season weren't good, like they still got in, and you did have people going, hey, if we can get by Oklahoma, like I know it's probably not going to happen, but we get our shot at Gonzaga, and what the hell? Let's say no, obviously none of that. Yeah. But the point is, there was something to hope for, and there just isn't in college football once you're out of the race for a conference title. So I don't know. We'll fix college football some other time, man.
Yeah, it's just signing day at this point. Just gotta look forward to the next recruiting class.
Hey, 6 days till Luther Burden Day. So Sean went ahead and made a prediction. I'll offer you the chance if you want.
Wow.
Although we will have another show that you're on before then. So if you want to wait, that's
cool. I'll refrain. I will refrain until Luther Burden goes to and from Athens, and then see what we're saying then.
Probably good.
I found out this weekend that my mom and grandmother are going to be in Athens this weekend. My brother is in graduate school down there, so I told them to give me the scoop if they run into Luther Burden. I'm sure they'll be running in the same circles.
Your mom and who else is going to be there?
My grandma.
I want Grandma Forde's report on the Tigers' lair on Sunday night.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get that to you guys.
All right. Thanks, Mitch. We'll talk to you, man. All right. Mitchell Forde joining us, and we're going to let him go. And I'm just going to wrap up by reminding you one more time about 573 Tees. They do have the physical location in downtown Columbia. It's in Alley A between 9th and 10th Street. But they also have the website, 573tees.com. And if you go there, you can find some Power Mizzou stuff. You can find the I'm Sad t-shirt we were talking about earlier. You can find a lot of Mizzou gear. I know you guys are diehard fans. You're still going to wear it. I know you might be disappointed, but you still need some shirts. And so go check out 573 Tees, a great local company. And they have really built themselves up here in the last couple years. And we're happy to be partnered with them and be a part of it and appreciate them helping us out on this show every Wednesday as well. Tomorrow we're going to preview A&M. Friday we're going to make some picks, and then Saturday's game day. And then we'll kind of get into a little bit different schedule for the off week. But thanks for joining us today, and we'll be back tomorrow.